Hey guys, this is Digitrevx. Today I'm going to show you guys a tutorial on physics. That's right, physics. And if you notice, there's no background music in my video. You can thank YouTube for that, since they've been a pain to me with background music in my previous tutorials. So there'll be none in this. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it in PMX Editor. So if you don't have PMX Editor, there's two places you can go to. You can get the version from animiku.com. So animiku.com, go to downloads into tools, and there'll be PMX Editor at the very bottom here, and it's partially translated in English, which is helpful. Otherwise, you have to use the Japanese version, which is kind of what I use. If you want to use what I use, you go to my DeviantArt page, Digitrevx DeviantArt, and go to the second question, what version of PMX do I use, and then right here the MediaFire download. And that'll get you something close to what I got. So I'm going to show you guys how to kind of get this guy right here. It's just a real simple little physics chain. This will probably be like a multiple episode type of thing, multiple tutorial type of thing, because physics is not exactly simple, so in MMD, or at least making it. So we're going to make this little thing. So start with a new file here. Whoops. And it's going to start you off with a center bone. Whoops, center bone. And we're going to make 3 new bones. We're not going to worry about the name right now. And turn all this stuff off. So this is the this allows us to manipulate bones. This icon up here, and we're going to select all 3. And if you click off the manipulator tool, the little this guy up here, the little kind of weird looking cross thing, it's gonna select what you have selected right now. So it's kind of like an easy way to get it to be where you want it to be. So we're gonna do something like this, so we get them kind of separated and lifted up. Get them kind of spaced out. And we're going to use the center bone as basically kind of like to attach the physics to, so we can kind of play with it at the end and stuff. And this would be kind of like, for example, like the head on your character. This is what it would represent, and then this would be like a hair chain, for example. But this is like real simple. So the next thing we're going to do is, I don't know, I like to do is make our joints real quick. So you can hit this guy right here and make 3 of them. And then something kind of helpful that's built into this thing, I think PMD Editor has the same thing, is you can select the bone, assuming you name it something you understand. If you're an English speaker, or if you know Japanese, that's fine, that's great. If you name them something that makes sense to you for physics, because physics aren't driven by motion data, so you can name whatever you want. But if it's going to be like something's driven by motion data, like the part of your rig, like a leg or something, don't rename that, because it needs to be in Japanese. Just select the bone you want to assign the joint to. So this first one, doesn't matter which joint. Well, it's nice if they're in order, but I'm going to start with the top one and send him to bone 1. And I'm going to hit this button. It's going to pop it right to it. And assign this one to bone 2. And to bone 3. Now all this is doing is moving the joint to the bone. It's not actually, I keep saying assign, but it's not actually assigning it to the bone. It's just moving it to the location. So the next thing we're going to want to do is make these bones link to each other. So basically this field right here, this box, is the bone that is the parent of the particular bone that we actually have highlighted. So this is going to be attached to the center bone. That's senta in Japanese. So that's going to be attached to 0, because that's 0. So 1 goes to 0. So we're going to put 0 there. Actually, what am I doing? -1. -1 is default for nothing. So sorry. So this guy's going to 0. And we're going to link him to, so we have to check this option to get that field. We're going to link him to 2 because he's below 1 is, 2 is below 1. So we're going to go to 2 and link him to 1. Turn this on, and we're going to link him to 3 because 3 is below 2. And then 3 we're going to link to 2. And then we're going to like leave him not linked to anything else because there's nothing below 3. So something else, you see a lot of rigs, physics rigs have like a little dead bone at the end and stuff. You can add a 4th bone and then connect the 3rd to the 4th, or you could do this nifty little thing and kind of just make it like extend. Kind of see what I did there. So if I change it back to 0, see there's nothing there, and then if I put this back in, so I don't know, just make it 1.5, so it's a little bit longer. This number directly relates to how long that little kind of like extension is. It's just a visual thing, really. It's not. It's just to show the direction the bone is going, and you can play with it. These are different axes, so we only need the y-axis, so that's why. So all our bones are linked at this point, except for this one. So we need to link him to 1, so he's center, so he's talking to the first bone. So it looks like it's all right. So let's go back to the joints real quick. I'm sorry. We're not going to go back to the joints. The joints require colliders. I don't know how to explain it. Basically, objects that keep the bones from intersecting other parts of your model you don't want it to. So that's this tab right here. So we're going to make 3 of them because we have 3 bones we want to have physics. And we can select them all by just holding shift and left mouse clicking on each of them. And we're going to change them to a pill shape. These basically control the shapes. That's similar to PMD Editor. And we can change the size of that to be whatever you want it to be. So say, I don't know, like 0. Say that's gonna be really tiny. Yeah, let's try 2 for now. And we're gonna change them to physics. So that's this basically this underline and orange right here. And the last thing we're gonna want to do is, because this is in group 1, these are basically the groups, the grouping system inside of MMD and PMX Editor that allows you to make certain objects go through other objects but stop when they hit other objects. Like, if that makes sense. So because these are all 1 and we don't want them to like fight each other, we're going to tell them to ignore 1. So all these bones are going to ignore each other. So that's very important when you make like a hair chain or a ribbon or something like that. All the bones in this one line ignore each other. So if I say I want to be group 4 now, make sure you check group 4. That's like the most important thing with this. So we're going to change it back to group 1. We'll come back to this in a second, but we're going to get this set up. So we're going to turn on this character right here. This is basically to allow us to interact with physics objects, colliders. So we're going to turn that on, and now we can actually grab it. Because if you actually turn it off, I can't grab it. I can sit here all day and click, so I got to turn that on. So we're going to select all of them, and we're just going to move them up. So we're going to leave the first one at the first bone. The second 2 at the second bone, and the third down here. Now they're a little bit big, so I'm going to change their size real quick. Make them like 1.3 is probably a good number. 1.4. Something else you don't see a lot of people doing, which is actually a mistake, is you actually want these collider objects to intersect the other one, so they basically cross over a little bit. That's the purpose of them. Otherwise you'll have gaps and stuff, and they'll get caught up on things and everything. So this is the right way to do it. The last thing we're going to need just for this little tutorial exercise is we're going to need a collider for the very top, like the head, for example, because we need that to allow the joints to connect to it. So we're going to make one, and this character right here sends it all the way to the top of this. You could either hit the arrows and move it up, or you can hit this and it'll send it to the top, and this sends it to the bottom. So we set it to the top, and we can drag it up. Another little quick tip is when you move a collider or any object, bone, joint, collider, whatever, when you get done moving it, click another object, like I'm doing like now. Because what will happen is you'll start messing with something like a value in here, and it'll pop back to where it originally was before you moved it, which is a really annoying thing. I don't know why it does it, but it does, and that's a way to avoid that happening if you can remember to do that. So we're going to change the size, and okay, and we're good to go there. We're going to leave him green, which is a regular object. It's the type of object that would be like the legs or the head or the chest, arms, whatever. And now we're going to actually assign these little wireframe colliders to the bone, which is also really important. And I'm starting to actually get to the part where some people may have had problems where like their hair just like, they turn on physics and like their hair on their character just falls to the ground and stuff. This is the stuff that like causes that to happen that I'm going to go over here. So you select it, or you can select it in here, either way, and you want to assign it to the correct bone. So this is going to be assigned to 1. So this bone I'm selecting is 1. We want that collider to be assigned to 1. That's really important. So we're going to assign this one to 2. And assign this to 3. So these are all assigned to the correct bones that are inside of them. If they're not assigned to the correct bones, bad, weird things will happen. You don't want that. And we're going to assign what's actually already assigned to center. Okay, so we're good. So we got that straight away. So now we're going to go to joints, and this is kind of a little bit confusing, but you'll get it eventually, I guess, through practicing and watching this tutorial and stuff. You're going to go to the first joint, and these don't actually talk to the bones really. They don't actually attach to the bones or assign to the bones. They're like the glue that holds these orange collider things together. Without them, they'll just fall to the ground and stuff like that. So this is also the second part to why your hair is probably falling to the ground. So you go to the first joint, and since it's going to be attached to the very top of the head, we want to say attach to that first joint. I'm sorry, that first collider. It's in Japanese. You can name these colliders whatever the heck you want. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to hurt the rig. It's not going to make the motion data not work. But in this case, I'm not going to name them because time. So that's the topmost collider, and since this is joint 1, we're going to attach it to the first collider in the chain, which is collider 1. So we're going to go into joint 2, and we're going to attach him to collider 1, and then it's going to go down to 2, and then this is going to end to 2, and this is going to end to 3. So if you kind of like sit and think about this for a second, the joint is basically attached to these things. So this is 3, this is 2, this is 1. So for example, this is going to be attached to 3, and this is going to be attached to 2, and then this collider is going to be attached to 2, and this is going to be attached to 1, and then this joint is going to be attached to 1, and then the very top. So if that makes sense to you. So at this point, unless I've made a mistake, if I go to transform view, which is this little button up here, which is only a PMX Editor thing, and I turn on physics, which is this little play button basically, it should have physics. And it does, but they're really, really, really stiff. You can kind of see how like it looks like a plank of wood, like almost. It's so stiff. If I yank it really hard, you can kind of see it boing a little bit. So I'm going to show you a little bit about tuning real quick. So the first thing you want to do is basically down here are all the settings for the joints, each one individually. So if you want to change them all at once, you hold Shift and then click on the bottommost joint and it'll select them all. So that's one way to select them all, or you can hold Shift and individually click them, whatever works for you. So this row right here is the maximum angle in which one of your joints can pivot. So basically allows this this bottom, for example, this bottom collider to actually angle out based on the numbers you put in here. And these are, like I said, are X, Y, and Z. So these are the actual axes in which they can move. So if I actually, you can actually see the axes if you look really, really carefully. If you select the joint, oops, sorry. If you select this right here, it'll actually allow you to select joints. So I'm going to turn off everything else but that, so I can select joint. So if I turn this off, it's hard to see why because it's inside the bone, but you can see X and Z. So Z is blue, X is red, sorry, brain fart, and Y is would be green, but it's inside that bone. So anyways, good values to start with is somewhere between like 20 and like 100. So I'm gonna put in like 50 or something. So you're gonna start with -50. This field is actually the negative direction, and then 50. So it's gonna be able to swing 50 in one direction in x-axis and 50 in the other direction in x-axis. So in Y, since it's going to be something like a hair chain or like a ribbon, you don't really want it to kind of go up and down and stretch apart. So we're going to put in like something like I don't know, -5, something really small. And the reason why you want to have something small in there is because if it doesn't have some kind of like give a little bit, it'll cause that weird vibrating you see in a lot of models. Or it at least helps a little bit. So we're gonna put -50 in here and 50 in here. So you got x-axis and z-axis. It'll actually allow it to swing and pivot. And actually, I only did it to 1. God, look at me. So let me redo this real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, -50 and 50. Okay, and let's test the results of that. Transform view. Okay, so immediately you can see a difference. Like immediately. Come on. There we go. So it's a little too swingy, but that's okay. That gives you a huge start. You know, you already basically got some kind of physics kind of going. So talk about some little more advanced stuff here real quick. This stuff down here is kind of like how how stiff it is, for example. So these rows down here, these columns, these fields are basically the angle, like we talked about here. So how stiff it is in these different directions. So so I'm gonna put something like 800 in there, something pretty high. Whoops. And go back over here. You see how it kind of gets a lot more stiff. It's kind of almost like back to a board and stuff. So so if you need to be a little more stiff, you know, it also kind of helps get rid of those that kind of vibrating you see and stuff. This is another way to also help kind of fix that by putting in kind of like a medium number, like something between 110 or something. So it'll make it a little more natural. This field right here above the rotation is translation, which is moving in a straight line, like basically, you see how I'm moving this left and right? This will change how stiff it is in those particular directions, X, Y, and Z. So not rotation, just moving left, right, up, and down, you know, in space. These fields above also do the same thing. Usually you don't need to use these that much, but sometimes in different cases where it's like got this crazy vibration kind of thing going, you can add a little bit of something in there, like oftentimes I see models with a little bit of give in the y, so like a negative like 1 or and I'm sorry, negative 0.1 and 0.1, and that'll kind of help give it a little bit of kind of give a little bit. So and so it'll allow it to slide a little bit. And in skirts, it also helps a little bit as well. So using these fields, and don't go crazy with them, because like your skirt will like just completely like slant apart, like as if like it's been, I don't know, cut by a ninja, and it just like, cartoon just slides away. And yeah. So the other settings I want to go over real quick is these down here. These are the actual like physics settings, like how much something weighs, for example. So so basically, this is kind of like pretty much exactly what I said. How much it weighs. So if you do something weird, like let's say, I don't know, I make this like 100. Like let's say that's like 100 pounds now, or 100 kilos or whatever. Um, if I do that, it's going to just rip apart. It's gonna like fall apart, like, because the last chain is like a ball of lead on a tiny little fishing line, and it's just gonna rip it apart. So yeah, see. So you don't want to do something like that. So you want to do, this is really kind of up to the user and how they want their physics to react. Sometimes you may want to start at like a number like 1, and then go to like, I don't know, 0.5, and then 0.1. And that's kind of like how hair would be, right? Because it would be like heavy at the top, because that's what, like, it's clumped and stuff, and then it kind of like gets lighter as it gets to the bottom, as like less hair like kind of tapers off. So um, like something like that. It of course, the physics aren't tuned, so it's going to be a little bouncy and weird things are going to happen. But that's an example of that. The other case where you want something to swing a little more, like kind of like there's like a ball of weight at the end or something, and have a little more swing. You may want to do something like 3 at the top, 4, and then like 5. So it's going to be a little more. And the more of these physics bones you have, the more you're gonna actually see. Since we only have 3 here, it's a little crude. So, but it's okay. And these 2 settings are basically kind of controlling how swingy it is. So if the higher the number, it's going to kind of like stiffen it up a little bit. So it'll move, like it'll flow, but it will stop swinging faster, if that makes sense. Um, so in general, you don't want to go over like 1.0. So stay under 1.0. For some reason, if you go over 1.0, weird things start happening. So let's try 0.99. So you can see how quick it stops swinging, right? It's just kind of like back, forth, and then just stops. So if I change that to like 0.1, for example, it's gonna sit there and swing left and right, left and right, and left and right for like, a good few seconds. So that's kind of showing you what's happening there. It's kind of adding a little bit of dampening to it and stuff. Generally, I don't do hair that is at 0.1. Usually, it's like the lowest number I go is like 0.7. So yeah, that's about as much swing as you really need. These also kind of help dampen. Basically, it kind of like it changes the swing effect and stuff. I'm not going to go too much into this because this is kind of like a little more advanced, but I don't go over like 0.7. And that's pretty much about it. As far as hair physics go, there's also this option which makes things like align. Sometimes if you're gonna do like a really stiff thing of hair, like on a like black rock shooter, you want to like kind of like hang off to the side, um, and kind of defy gravity a little bit. This sometimes helps. You generally don't need it though, because if you tune the physics right using the joints and the colliders, you kind of don't need that. So, because you can do like cool things. Let me see if I can show you real quick. Um, so if I go like 0, for example, see that's in the X. So you kind of see what happens. Like you can kind of make things defy gravity um, by um, by like just killing these numbers off. So I just made it 0. So when I swing it, it basically looks like it hits a brick wall, just bam. You know what I mean? So that's because I'm not allowing it to swing in that direction. So if I go and say turn all these on real quick. Oops. And make it kind of stick out like some kind of weird hair spike. I may have to kill off some of these other numbers. So you can kind of see how you get that effect. You get something to kind of defy gravity and kind of hang out there and everything. So, and like I said, this is really crude, but this kind of gets you started with the idea. Of course, there's a lot of tuning. I have to sit here and change these numbers for hours until I get to react exactly the way I want it. So just be prepared for that. But this at least gets you started with like how it at least works. Like so I know for a lot of you, this is kind of like really challenging. So um, there's other tutorials I'll probably do about like how to lay out your bones correctly for different shaped objects and stuff like that. There's a lot to it. So just hang in there and do your best. So anyways, that's it. So yeah, I hope this helps you. Let me know if there's something specific that you'd like me to do a tutorial on, and I'll do my best and find some time and get it in there for you. Thanks for watching.